Hello and welcome to the Zwift Race Place. I'm Kate Fravel, and today we're going to be taking a look at Zwift from a junior's perspective. We've got a lot lined up today, starting with taking a look at some of the similarities and differences between juniors and adults on Zwift. Then we're also going to be checking out fast juniors on Zwift, some stats, and then our highlight of the day, an interview with the SDW Youth Squad, a team of all junior Zwifters who were kind enough to let me interview them. So we'll be watching some of the questions from that interview later on as well. We're going to get right into all of that in just a moment, but first I want to remind you guys to subscribe to the Zwift Race Place for live race coverage, community coaching tips, and general Zwift knowledge. All right, let's get into it. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is some broad differences between juniors and adults on Zwift. And the first of those is weight and height. This is probably the most important difference because your weight and height play such a big role in determining how fast you're riding on Zwift. Obviously, most juniors are lighter than adults on Zwift, and lighter riders tend to climb better but don't perform quite as well on the flats, descents, and in the sprints. And obviously, the flip side for adults. On the height side of things, there is such thing as height doping on Zwift where riders will make themselves shorter, and this is because your height goes into determining your body type, which determines how much draft you give other riders. So essentially, juniors don't provide as much draft as adults in game. Second thing that we're going to look at is the default settings for juniors on Zwift, and this really is mostly targeted towards chat features because chats are automatically turned off for juniors on Zwift. You can go in and manually turn that back on. But I thought this one was important to include because it is a big part of the Zwift experience. Our third difference is account price, and this one's pretty basic. Juniors get a free account. Juniors under the age of 16, that is, and whereas adults have to pay for their account. All right, our fourth difference is issues for Z Power riders because when you're using a dumb trainer on Zwift as opposed to a smart trainer, it uses a system called Z Power to estimate how much power you're putting out. And in the case of juniors, because they're such light riders, that estimation is often quite off. It's usually too high. Riders are pushing like 8 watts per kilograms consistently. So issues with Z Power is definitely a problem for juniors. That's not as much of a problem for adults. And then our fifth and final difference is eligibility for certain competitions on Zwift, because there are competitions like the Zwift Academy and other major races where juniors are not eligible, and this is not so much targeted towards younger juniors, but older juniors, 16, 17-year-olds, who have a chance at winning some of these competitions, like the riders from the Canyon Dev Squad, for example. For our next segment, I wanted to take a look at some of the stats, as well as some of the fastest juniors on Zwift. And first up, the stats. As you can see, I have all the Cat A plus riders from Zwift Power here broken down by age. And surprisingly, this category had the most juniors within the top 500 Cat A plus riders. 52 juniors at 10.4% of those top 500, whereas adults accounted for 448 or 89.6% of those riders. And I was quite surprised that there were the most juniors out of all the categories, out of the top 500 in all the categories in Cat A+. But I think this might be due to the fact that Zwift Power filtering filters it down to all U23 riders, and there are definitely a lot of fast riders, really fast riders in that 21, 22 years of age range, so they might be skewing this data a little. And then over in the Cat A, the juniors account for only 28 of the total riders. That's the second to least out of all of our categories, with only 5.6% of all the top 500 riders. And then adults take up 472 of those top 500. Over in Cat B, this category has the least juniors in the top 500 out of all of them at only 21, as opposed to 479 adults. So I thought that was interesting, but I think overall it makes sense. Over in the Cat C, once again, as expected, more juniors here, 39 juniors, as opposed to 461 adults. And there's definitely some fast juniors in the C category, as well as our D category, which is our final one. Only 36 juniors, a little less than I expected, as opposed to 464 adults. So those are some of the stats surrounding age in our top 500 riders across all categories on Zwift Power. And now it's time to get into some of our fastest juniors on Zwift. Alright, so as you can see, I've got some of those fastest juniors pulled up right over here, and I'm going to start with the Canyon Dev team over in our A race. Quick shout out to them. Great team. They were just formed this year in quarantine, and a lot of great junior riders on that squad. And then second, we've got the SDW Youth Squad over in the D category. We're actually going to be talking to them in just a minute. We'll be showing an interview from a couple weeks ago that I did with them. But shout out to them as well. They're a really fast squad there, and definitely younger riders in that race. And then third is Evan Pluinick. He's actually an individual rider, but he's leading the C categories with power rankings. So huge shout out to him. I think he's 9 years old and totally crushing in Cat C. And then finally in Cat D, we've got Jerry Horn. He's third overall in the Zwift Power Cat D rankings, so shout out to him as well. And I'm not sure of his age, but all right. So those are just my shout outs to some of the fastest Zwifters out there. And now it is time to take a look at our interview with the SDW juniors from a couple weeks ago. We met with them over Zoom, and we just had a couple questions for them. And thanks to them for giving some great answers.
Henry Bottoms, SDW Youth, 8 years old, 27.5 kilos. I've been riding on Zwift for a month. Ride on.
Leo Hughes of SDW Youth. I'm age 11, 35 kilograms. I've been Zwifting for 7 months. Ride on.
I'm Nathan Tully of the SDW Youth Rider Squad. I am 13, I weigh 45 kilograms, and I've been riding on Zwift for 2 months now.
Ollie Fussell, SDW Youth. I'm 8 years and 28.5 kilos. Been riding on Zwift for a year. Ride on.
What do you feel is one of the greatest advantages of racing as a junior on Zwift? And we can start with Leo this time.
I think you're lighter and it's easier to go up hills.
And we'll start with Henry this time. What is one of the greatest disadvantages of racing as a junior on Zwift?
Definitely the downhills where you really need to try and push your legs to keep up with the grown-ups.
Leo, you can go ahead.
I think it's probably the sprints because the grown-ups have more power.
All right, Ollie?
You can't see the messages on the screen, and the sprints as well really too light.
Okay, and then finally Nathan?
Like with the sprints, like everyone else said, it causes us to lag behind, and we have to try as hard as the other people to stick with the draft, but we don't get a very good placement on the sprints.
All right, so which races are on your weekly schedule?
For January and Mad Monday.
Okay, Henry?
For January and Mad Monday as well.
All right, Nathan?
We'll have the same January and Mad Monday.
Yeah, okay. So Ollie, I'm assuming you do Veganuary and Mad Monday. Anything else
I
you race?
I do WTRL.
The Zwift Racing League or the Team Time Trial? Right, so the next question is more like a long-term goal. What would you like to achieve through Zwift Racing? Like, is this to improve your fitness? Are you trying to just get faster in general? You shooting for winning races? And we can start with Ollie this time.
Well, I really want the Tron bike on Zwift and the Pro Contract. Nathan?
I don't really have a main goal. I do Zwift because I enjoy cycling. It's one of my favorite sports, and I enjoy racing because otherwise in real life you can't really race on a bike, but Zwift allows you to do that. Like when you're a youth, you can't race.
Okay, Henry?
Go up levels, earn badges, and win races.
Okay, and Leah?
To improve my fitness.
Okay, so for the next question, if you could change one thing about the Zwift experience, what would it be? So, like, this could be something about the game features itself, something about the way races work, really anything. It's pretty open to your interpretation. So, we can start with Leo this time.
Think I'd like it if there were more routes around different places.
Yeah, I agree with that. Henry, you want to go? Excuse me for a second here.
Special age category races.
Yeah, I think having a juniors category would be nice. So for the next question, I know a lot of you are smaller than most adults racing on Zwift. So are there any special equipment adaptations you have had to make, like to improve your Zwift experience? Excuse me. And we can start with Nathan this time.
My dad doesn't want to take the bike on and off because he almost destroyed his bike doing it. And I'm not tall enough to be able to lean over to the handlebars comfortably. So I can never stay on the handlebars for long enough. So we've had to buy an extension an extension handlebar we'll tie to the front just a bit behind so I can hold on to the handlebars.
So what accomplishments that you've made on Zwift are you most proud of? And we can start with Henry this time.
Coming second yesterday in the race.
Okay. Leah?
I did that out to Zwift a few days ago.
Nice. Okay, Ollie? I won the SDW Championships in Cat D. Cool. All right, and Nathan?
I came 8th in my first ever Mad Monday race I ever did. It was also my first ever race I did.
Nice. All right, and then the final question is, what is your favorite course on Zwift? And if you can't decide on a specific course, what's your favorite world? So, Henry, you want to start us off?
I like the volcano route.
Okay, Leah?
One of the new ones, the ocean lava cliffside loop.
Okay, Ollie?
The Tour Fire and Ice.
All right, and finally, Nathan?
I also like the volcano climb on Watopia.
All right, so that's all the questions that I have for you guys. I think, thank you for doing the interview. It's really going to help out with the video to talk to some actual juniors on Zwift.
Junior Zwifters and parents of junior Zwifters out there, if I missed anything, please let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the Zwift Race Place for more live race coverage, community coaching tips, and general Zwift knowledge. For more from the Zwift Race Place, check out our video on how to force a Zwift update, or check out our playlist with our community coaching tips videos, all pro-level coaching tips from Zwifters just like you. If you have any new race series you'd like me to cover, please also leave that down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Zwift Race Place.